Alright, what's up, y'all? So this video, my first video was about troops to teachers, right? I did that program. So my thing I did before that, right? I was medically retired on the temporary disability retirement list. And I'm gonna make another video about that. I went to nursing school. I applied, right? So if you want to do nursing when you get out, you know, if you already I don't know if it's a 90 series or 6 series, I don't know. So I know 68 Whiskey's medic, so I don't know if they had a 69 Sierra, I think it was, because I was looking it up before, possibly as an LPN. So I went, there's the practical nurse and there's a registered nurse, right? A practical nurse is a diploma 1-year program, right? A registered nurse is anywhere from a 2-year diploma or 2-year associate's degree program, or a bachelor's, the whole way up to you can get your, I think your master's. You can go up to be dang, my teacher's gonna kick my ass for me not remembering. It's like the counterpart of a physician assistant, but better in the nursing field. So you can keep going, and then you can get your doctorate in nursing. I'm gonna say now, but it's probably always been there, but I've heard of it more recently. They're pushing that. What you have to do is, if I'm going to speak from the practical nurse side is what I did, and I'm going to speak from the registered nurse process, because I went through I got accepted first into the practical nurse program, so I picked that because it was a year program. And there is people are going to debate this with me, and I could be 100% wrong. I'm telling you from, again, my side. Everything I'm telling you is from what I went through and the things that were told to me and my understanding of them. So I imagine I'm going to hit some stuff wrong. Comment below. Don't be an ass. I mean, just if I'm wrong, I mean, I'm wrong. That's just life, man. So I was contracting in Afghanistan, and I came home because I had to take a test. You have to take like a pre-entrance exam. There's a specific name. There's a pre-entrance exam for the RN and for the LPN. So I went, took the exam for both of them, passed them, and you submit your application fee for both, and I got accepted to the practical nurse program that started in September in my hometown. So I was going to be able to be home, use my VA benefits, and get, you know, financial aid and stuff like that for extra money. And I had my military retirement coming in. So I was like, yeah, I'm from a small town, so, you know, over the mountain is a bigger area. There's opportunity for work, and from my town it was, you know, I could have been a welder. There's different things you could do, but I chose nursing because to me, I knew I was going to end up moving, right? So nursing was, I met a couple dudes overseas that were nurses that they just sold me on it. Like, man, you can travel nurse. Like, the one dude goes to California, makes a shit ton of money. They put him up in a house and then comes home to the East Coast and stays for a couple months and goes back out, traveling nurse. So I'm getting way ahead on that aspect. So I was like, I'm sold. And it creeped in my mind about being a nurse is, I'm not going to go into it. I was not through some dramatic event when I got injured, okay? Like, I didn't sprain my ankle. I mean, let's not, and I understand people do that and there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying, like, I didn't get, I don't know. If you've been injured, right, and you know how extreme it can be, you're always going to prepare yourself. Like, I have all my limbs. I have, you know, I'm good to go, right? But when I was hurt, there was a dude that was taking care of me, and this dude beside me, and he was a nurse. And it was just like, for me back then, like, it was a different, I mean, it was 10, 15 years ago, which doesn't sound long ago, but in society that it was different. Like, you didn't see male nurses, and if you did, you know, it was usually extremely abnormal to see that, right? And this dude's, you know, was in the military, you know, talking, you know, to us, and this was back in like 2004, it was crazy. Like, the dude was right there. He was doing everything, coming in, checking on us, stuff like that, talking about how it was a good career. And he was in Germany. He was on active duty before, and he was a civilian who they PCS'd him over there. And he's telling us a story and stuff like that, you know. And I was over, I was there for a couple you know, they fly you to what was it, Balad at the time, and then you wait, and then they take you to Germany. So I was in Germany for a couple weeks and stuff like that, and that's where I had the option either go back, get fixed up, or finish out my tour. And of course, I'm like, and they're like, you could get to, I moved out of Fort Hood, and they're like, dude, you could be at Fort Hood for a year and a half. Like, they're gonna make you 100% for. I'm like, nah, I'll go back, finish my deployment, because I had all my limbs and stuff like that, and you know, they put me on light duty and different things, but that's besides the point. But I met that dude who's a nurse. I always crept my head. I'm like, man, because I like to travel, that'd be cool to do, and I didn't know about the travel nursing. So fast forward, I'm home. I put in the pack, and I get accepted. Right? I don't really know the difference between a practical nurse and a registered nurse, like at the time. And even to this day, like, the schooling's a year longer, so there's a lot more than what I'm about to tell you that's different. I'm just telling you in my head what I recall. It's like something about hanging bags, like the liquid and stuff like that. There's like, when I worked right by an RPN. An RN. When I did my clinicals, I was right by an RN. They could do certain things. Maybe it was insert an IV plus hang a certain type of bag and stuff like that, where we couldn't. And the pay wasn't that different. When I looked into what I wanted to do in my town, and everywhere I kind of searched, there wasn't that big of a pay difference at the time. It was maybe $2 to $5 an hour. Now, that, to some people, that is a huge difference. But again, with the VA, with all the different things, and if I wasn't going to come back in and get permanently retired, the $2 to $3 an hour for an extra year of training, it just didn't make sense to me, because it was, I didn't even know if I wanted to do it for the rest of my life. I just wanted to be in the program. It got me home. I was in that, I could do the MOS, what is that, like that acquired civilian skill when I came back in, and that's how it initially actually got started. So back to, as I ran on, back to me taking a test, I got accepted to the LPN program first. You know, the LPN program was pretty, I had been out of school for a while, right? And I had earned my degree earlier, and it took me, 10 years to get my first degree. It was crazy because of just, and I wasn't an intelligent person. Like, I graduated high school like a 1.7, you know what I mean? Like, my sister was I had to take 2 extra classes my senior year. I just had my reunion. I'm not even in the yearbook the senior, you know what I mean? I was just not a student. I just didn't care, right? So, and then I did what a lot of people do, and I'll make a video, what I hope a lot of people did, was all my military training, right? I clept out on some things, and when I got a chance, because it was free, so I just studied, you know what I mean? Back then, it was, you log onto your computer, and there wasn't Quizlet and stuff like that. You had to, like, either go buy that print out, like, the 80-page CLEP prep thing, and I'd go, you know, take the English test, fail it one time, go, you know, study again and pass it. So I got some of my gen eds out of the way. I went to, like, Penn Foster, ACE approved credits, and then I had about a good 60 to 70 college credits, right? So anyway, that's a whole nother story. So I ended up not actually being in school from high school to being in the LPN program. So I did all my other schooling was online, at either university or online school. So it was a whole new world for me, you know, and doing online school is a little bit different than doing, like, your hands-on Monday through Friday, 8-hour days. And the one thing that I would say is it's an 8-hour day. Like, and some days you're coming in early because your clinicals, you can only do certain things. You know, if you're giving meds, you got to be in there at 6 o'clock. So it wasn't a bad schedule at all, but it was like high school. Like, you were coming in, you were sitting in a classroom, you were doing the work and learning. It was intense for me. Because again, I'd been out of school for a little bit, and it was my first, like, that type of environment where it's not military, where, you know, they're not stomping like this is about to be on a test. Like, it was like, the worst part for me was the pharmaceutical, right? So you do it in stages. You do, like, and I'm gonna mess up all the stages, like general nursing, like general terms and stuff like that, and then you do a clinical at an elderly home, you do a clinical at a hospital, you do it in different sections. Like, I did a clinical section with infants, like in a maternity, that I kind of missed some of that, and that's a part that I didn't pass, and I'll tell you that. I took the LPN test, I'll skip forward, and I took it like a week after I graduated, or 2, within like a couple weeks when I shouldn't have. I was supposed to study, but I was so arrogant that I was like, I'm gonna pass it, it's not that big of a deal. And the teachers tell you, you're learning to be a nurse, right? And you'll see all these jokes, like, in school. The NCLEX is nothing like what you learn. Like, it was they're going to teach you at the end to pass the NCLEX. And I was like, well, we've been here for a year. How can't we pass it? And it was, I should have paid more attention to that too, which I did. But you go through each stage as you get tests, and we lost maybe 2 or 3. I was the only guy in the class, and we lost maybe 2 or 3 girls for different reasons. Some of them got rolled back because if you pass, if you, I might be wrong here, but for ours, like you test once. If you failed it a second time, you were done. Besides the pharmacology, which was like the hardest test, you had to memorize all the different terminology. I mean, that was for me the hardest part, to the point that I messaged some dudes that were contracting. I was like, man, this isn't even a story. I mean, trying to be funny. Like, I was like, look, dude, I'm about to take this test. Are there any jobs open? Because I was straight up like, I was failing that test, and I'm confident, I'm arrogant when it comes to tests. Like, I didn't like sitting in school, but you give me a test, I mean, if it's a 70, I mean, I'm gonna pass it if that's all you need. That was one thing that I just, no cards after no cards, and I barely passed. And I mean, I bet you they put it on the curve for me to pass. But everyone, we lost a couple people there. But it's not, I'm making it out to be a little, maybe more extreme than it is, but everybody was kind of worked up. There was another girl who was a Penn State grad. She had her bachelor's, and she was highly intelligent. She was the top of the class. She even was prepping for that pharmacology section. So what happens is, then you take your test. Once you graduate, you take your test. You can get it, in my state, you can get a temporary license. So you can work for 6 months as a graduate practical nurse. So you don't have to take your test, because it gives you time to, and I think probably every state does it, it gives you time to study. Well, again, I started working right away, and it was kind of a blessing in disguise. Like, I got picked up right away. I mean, if you're, I don't know what it's like now, but back, if you were a male, I mean, I got 3 or 4 offers right away, like instantly. I had 4 offers. I think we went to something before we actually graduated, because I had 4 offers, and we graduated like on, I don't know, like one day. That following Monday, I was working. I was picked up and starting at a new position, and I was working at a elderly home, and I was like, just telling myself, like, I'm just doing this just to do something, because I felt, you know, I was laying around. I was like, blew up to like 374 pounds, like, because I wasn't doing anything, and I was feeling like, you know, I'm gonna do something. So I'm kind of jumping here. That's when I started contracting, dropped down like $2.99, because you had to be under 305 at the time if you were gonna go overseas. So I didn't want to revert back to that. So I came home. My wife now ended up getting pregnant while I was on R&R from Afghanistan, and I came home, and it just all worked out that I came home. I was starting that September, and I didn't end up studying, and I failed the test, and I failed it on the maternity part, which was the part I missed for that military training. And there, you can't miss. Like, it was a very unique situation, and I missed. Like, I was almost going to get rolled back into class, and they thankfully worked with me, and I caught up everything. And I actually was only gone half the time that I thought I was going to be gone, because I thought it was going to be like a 2-month training. It was only a couple weeks actually. So if you're looking to be a nurse, I guess get to the point, because this has already been like 13 minutes. It's a good field. If you're a guy, like, I enjoyed patient care, which was like the emergency room people that came in, and you got to talk to them, you check their vitals, and that's all it pretty was. Like, I didn't do any, in my mind when I picked it, because of talking to the other dude, was I was gonna be like in the ER, like on movie, like, man, people, oh, he's coding and da-da-da, because like, it's like, I'm a nurse, don't call, you know. So I'm like, they're hands-on. Those are RNs. If you want to do that, you need to be an RN, right? If you want to like be an emergency room nurse, now let me finish. You can do that if you're an RN. Now, to do that as an LPN, which is what I started doing while I was in LPN school, I was going to EMT class, because in my area where I live, like about an hour drive, you could be an LPN with EMT and work in an emergency room, and that's what I wanted. And I think I probably would have, if there would have been more opportunity like that for me, I probably would have just retook the test and passed it, because I was so close to passing it. I mean, I was literally 10 points away, and they tell you where or like, it wasn't 10, like they show you where you pass and where you fail, and like I was like even in one part that I forget how it's set up. They'll explain to you, like, if you're even and you fail a part, you failed. if you're even the whole way across in 2 parts, you're fine. But, and of course, if you fail 2 parts, you fail it. But it was some scenario like that maternity was technically, I didn't score high in everything, so obviously, but maternity is the one that brought me down. But I would have probably, if I was working in an emergency room, I would have stayed, because I was thinking in my head, you know, what you see on TV, you know what I mean? And like what you picture or is happening in the city. Well, in my town, it wasn't like that. So I worked at an elderly home, and it was great. The people were nice. It just wasn't for me. It was like, I mean, all I was doing there, if you're going to do that, is you're going to be passing out pills. And if something happens, then you have to step up, and there's an RN there that's going to help you. If anybody passes away, you have to do some certain things. But all it is you're doing a lot of walking. You're giving meds, and then you're refilling meds. And then you're putting out any type of issues if somebody needs help. I volunteered for like wound care, which was great. Like, if I could have, there was a job that they offered for an LPN, but then it ended up changing to an RN because of probably the state rules at the time. Because if I would have probably even got that wound care job, I would have kept it, because it was cleaning wounds. It was good shit. Like, for me, like, that's what I wanted to do. That's what I pictured when I got into that. So if that's what you're looking for, and you just want to go right into that, you need to be an RN. Other states are completely different. I'm speaking from my state in Pennsylvania, and I'm speaking from this 6 years ago, so everything could have changed. But for an LPN, unless you specific place will hire you as an emergency room, you have to have your EMT. I did not finish my EMT. I started that class, and just, it was me arrogantly thinking I could do them both at the same time. I couldn't, because it was a 6-month program. I was trying to go to a crash course, like in the wilderness down in West Virginia. You can do like a 7-day emergency EMT thing, and I just never, I couldn't take that break. But nursing was great. Like, it's a great, if you're looking to travel, to get into that, like a travel nurses, LPN, you can't, like, there was a couple places that I saw, but if you want to be a travel nurse, RN is where it was at, because there was tons of RN positions. I mean, even in my hospital that I worked in my town, there was travel RNs because they were so short. But the dudes I knew, they were in DC. The one dude lived in Maryland, and he was a travel nurse in DC just because he got paid so much more. But they do like weeks. Like, you go out there for like 5 weeks on a contract, and you make all this money. They pay for your housing, then you pick up another contract. But it's so much work that this dude just traveled. He had his kids in the summer like I did, so he would come back to his locally, and in the summer he'd be with his kids and work locally as an RN. So if that's what you're looking to do, for college credit wise, I know if you get obviously your associate's degree, your ADN, it's an associate's degree, so you're gonna have that. As an LPN, there's no college credit. You get a diploma, and then you can apply for work experience at a college. So I'm all big about getting college credits no matter what I do. Whatever training I do, I want college credits for. Just because I have no, I mean, I'm in my late 30s, but I have no clue what I want to do when I grow up. And I have a great job now, so I always keep everything open. So for that aspect, LPN, unless there's other programs where I went, you couldn't get college credit for it. I submitted some paperwork at Thomas Edison State University, is where I got my second degree, and they will do, like, you know, learning experience. Every college just has it. Like, you submit a paper, you've done this job for so many, and they'll give you so many credits for, like, they were going to give me, like, I think like 11 college credits, like 9 and then 2, or 3, 3, 3 and then 2 for LPN. But then you have to submit it, and you have to write like, I think it was like a 2-page thing about what you did, and, you know, what your daily tasks were, and then you have to have it signed off that you actually did that. So if you're looking for that type of stuff, and you're interested in that, I can't really put anything below, because it's going to be based off your state. What I will do is put like the breakdown of what an LPN and what an RN is. Now, I'm gonna tell you this, like our teachers told us, and I heard it multiple times when I was like, yeah, I'm a nurse. And people are like, oh yeah, or were you LPN, RN? And I'm like, oh, I'm an LPN. I'm like, oh, we're not even gonna be around that much. I'm like, what? Like, and our instructor told us, you're gonna hear that 20 years ago, or 30, 40 years ago, they said they heard that. LPNs are always gonna be around, because there's the CNA, Certified Nurse Assistant, the LPNs, and then RN. So I imagine ideally, well, like in any field, why wouldn't you want everyone to be an RN? But it's just not feasible. Like, it's not feasible. So you're gonna hear like, oh, but you can also go from LPN to RN. Like, a lot of colleges now, like about 6 or 7 of them that I found, if you're an LPN, you've worked an LPN for 2 years, you can do an online, if you're working full-time, you can do an online registered nurse program, an ADN. And you're taking the college courses online, but then they're using your clinicals, which is the big difference that I noticed with RN is they do a lot more clinicals. They are going to use your work that you're doing as your clinical. And that was going to be my ultimate goal. When I realized, like, oh, when I learned, I'm like, why didn't I just become an RN? I could have did a 2-year program. My town literally had the same thing, but I was uneducated. I did not know, I didn't even know the difference between them. I looked at the money and I'm like, man, $2. And like in my town, I literally think it was like $21 for an LPN, like, or $18 for an LPN and $21 for an RN to start. I mean, so it depends if you're working at a hospital. So for me, it was, I mean, I was like, well, whatever. I mean, the cost of living where I lived, and plus, again, I'm repeating myself, all the other money I had. So that's a good field to get in, and plus it's going to be forever. Do you know what I mean? So just pick what you want to do. And I know some programs have, if you're a medic, some colleges will work with you to transfer some of your credits for an RN program. If you know anything about that, please comment below. But it's a good field, man. Like I don't regret it because it's not what I wanted to do. I have the diploma, I passed. You know, it still irks me sometimes I didn't go back and get the actual cert, take the test, which it's still in the back of my head to do, but I got the diploma. You know, I went through the school, I just didn't, and I failed the test. I mean, it's 100% my fault, you know, and it wasn't that hard. I just didn't study. Like everyone else took their time studying. I think one other girl either failed it or just didn't take it, you know, and that's the way it was. And I was one of those people like, does anybody not do this after this hard, like one of the first couple questions when they talk about that, I'd be like, who wouldn't do that? And I ended up being somebody who didn't do it after I failed the first time. So if you have any questions about the nursing, anything specific, I mean, this is a 21-minute video, so hit me up, ask me, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I mean, it's a great field. There's great people, especially like helping people, man, and caring. And a couple of girls went to work at the VA. You know, if you want to just be around other veterans and stuff like that, helping, you know, that wasn't necessarily not that I didn't want to do that, but I wanted to be emergency room, like in a city type environment. In my mind, that's what I was going to be, even in my hometown, and it wasn't like that. So leave a comment, follow. I mean, whatever people say, I don't know. I'm new to all this, but hit me up if you have any questions.